The iPhone XR, released in 2018, received a lot of backlash when it got introduced. There were countless articles and videos calling this device a failure, a flop, a device that is even depressing. But as it turned out, it became the most sold iPhone of 2019. It stayed in Apple's lineup for 3 whole years and people really seemed to like it. So what really happened with this iPhone? To understand why the iPhone was deemed as unsuccessful, we need to come back to the release date. Back in 2018, the XR was released alongside the iPhone XS and XS Max. These were that year's flagships, and the XR was created for the less requiring customer. It wasn't made for the tech-savvy people. Analysts were skeptical about the sales, and the specs were not the greatest, hence the budget iPhone. But Apple still believed in this device. This is when the first problem started to appear. It turned out that the demand was indeed a lot smaller than they expected. Pre-order phase didn't go as planned. Apple didn't report any delays, which usually happens with other iPhones. When there's a huge demand, Apple doesn't manage to fulfill all orders on time, and this was not the case with the XR, which indicated the less successful sales. What confirmed this low demand theory was the further heavy promotion of the iPhone XR. Apple partnered with Ellen and promoted the XR in her show, added a trade-in offer on their website, making it visible to everyone. They were basically trying to boost the slow sales of this device. The reason for its initial failure could be that last year they introduced the iPhone X, which was the most expensive iPhone ever, and it sold really well, so maybe not many people were ready to spend money for a new iPhone the next year. But more importantly, I believe that what helped, if not caused, all the bad talk about the XR was the backlash from reviewers. Many reviewers were heavily criticizing the device. Lots of articles and videos about this iPhone were titled in a negative way, often including words that didn't help the public image of the XR. This concept of budget, colorful iPhone wasn't really new. Apple has done a similar thing with the iPhone 5C, and that was really not that successful. The XR followed a similar path by releasing the model in many bright colors that were supposed to be appealing to a broad range of people. And because Apple took similar steps like with the 5C, people could also assume the same fate for the XR, i.e. low sales. But everyone would be willing to give Apple another chance. But the specs that they introduced for the XR were very disappointing for many people and even controversial. The water resistance rating was just IP67 and not IP68. It had just one camera compared to the double lens setup on the iPhone X and XS. It was a bit thicker and had bigger bezels. But the most controversial thing about the XR was the display. When it got released, it got called a liquid retina display, which sounds fancy and high quality, but in fact, it was less than 1080p panel, meaning you couldn't even watch a full HD video on it. And that was a huge disappointment. It was the biggest problem everyone had with this device. The XR has the same PPI pixels per inch of 326 as the iPhone 4, which was like really old. It got even compared to it in the Unbox Therapy video, as if it were the same thing. And yes, it's understandable. When you read the specs on the paper, it sounds really bad. And yes, the resolution is low, but it doesn't mean that it's low quality. It's a very good low resolution display. When people started using this device, however, when it got to their hands, it wasn't that big of a deal. In fact, real-life users didn't complain about it. At the end of the day, it's not a high-end flagship, so the people that would notice its shortcomings don't want it in the first place, and regular users don't really mind. In fact, Jonathan Morrison, in one of his videos, concealed the frame of a 1080p video panel and the one from the iPhone XR, and then ask some random people to guess which one is which and which display is of lower resolution. And they couldn't easily tell just by eyeballing the screen, and they didn't know which one is the iPhone XR. This only proves that specs on paper don't mean as much as we think when it comes to Apple. When the display quality, one of the biggest problems of the iPhone XR, turned out to be acceptable by its target audience, other good features and perks of the phone started to shine through. Everyone started to love the battery life, which was just great, nobody could doubt that. And it makes sense, since the display has much less pixels to push, and a XR as a budget phone wasn't pushed to its limits by the users. Regular people using the iPhone XR definitely don't get the most out of it. They don't demand the highest performance, so this also helped the battery life in the long run. This of course made the battery life longer, and this made the XR more attractive to the masses. Plus, for example, there's only one camera on the backside, but you cannot say it's a bad one. The previous iPhone X and XS, alongside which the XR was released, were equipped with the portrait mode. The ability to take photos with bokeh, the blurry background, really appealed to a lot of people. And Apple brought this feature to the XR as well, and although the XR gave up on the telephoto lens, which took care of depth detection and ensured nice portrait shots, the XR had a different way of doing it. It was using the software, and the software way of taking a portrait photo didn't seem as a problem to people. Even though it was of a little bit lower quality, it wasn't as good as on the iPhone X at the time, but people didn't really mind it. They could take nice portrait shots of them and other people, so this was another good factor that appealed to a lot of people. Plus, the ability to pick from many bright and vibrant colors. The new notch design, which was really fresh at the time. It was just the next year after the iPhone X, which had it for the very first time. It was fresh and new compared to the iPhone 8 and 7 with the home button. And the most important thing was the price. It was a lot cheaper than the flagship of XS. The iPhone X got removed from Apple's lineup, and the XR seemed like a nice way to have a new design, good-looking iPhone for a good price for regular people that didn't care about the pixel density and resolution on the paper. At the end, the entire situation just flipped around. Comments under YouTube videos covering the XR turned from critical and negative like, pretty sure you have to buy the extra pixels in the Apple Store, and overall people agreeing with the criticism. This all turned to people being apparently satisfied with the iPhone. Honestly, the XR was probably one of the best iPhones Apple has ever made. It felt like a successor to the SE to me. What is even more depressing is that you were wrong about the XR. It ended up outselling both the iPhone XS and XS Max. 1 year later, iPhone XR is the most sold phone in 2019. Watching this on my iPhone XR in 2020, I regret nothing. This video didn't age well, the customers have spoken, and many others, which only prove the point of the iPhone XR being a successful failure. Thanks a lot for watching, subscribe for the next episode, and we're gonna see each other there.